Hello, I'm Dana Bergdorf, Fort Worth Assistant City Manager, and I'm honored to join the Tarrant County League of Women Voters in celebrating the centennial of the 19th Constitutional Amendment, which enfranchised some 20 million American women. We are especially grateful to our video sponsors, Ardent Spirit Consulting and the Rick Ward Law Firm. To honor the women in politics today, the League awarded the Democracy Star to 6 Tarrant County elected officials who are women and were selected by their respective parties for recognition. Our thanks go out to Democratic Party Chair Deborah Peoples. We invited the awardees to share highlights of their political experiences with our interviewer, Karen Nicholson, a Texan and long-serving officer of the League of Women Voters of the United States. On this video, you will meet Ashley Paz, one of our Democracy Stars. Ashley is a young entrepreneur and business owner elected to the Fort Worth ISD Board of Trustees in 2013. She was selected to be a member of the Council of Great City Schools, where in 2019, she was a finalist for the nation's highest honor for outstanding contributions in urban education. I am honored to present Karen Nicholson interviewing Ashley Paz.
Welcome, Ashley Paz, who will be talking to us today about being a woman elected official. She has just won the Democracy Star Award. Thank you, Ashley. Welcome. Why did you first run for elected office? What inspired you? And then as you answer that, tell us the hardest part and what you've enjoyed the most about being an elected official.
So I decided to run for the Fort Worth School Board around the time that my oldest daughter was going into kindergarten. I was not happy with our local representation and the lack of focus on how students were actually performing in the school district. But it was just one of those things that's like, if you're going to complain, then step up and do something about it. In that moment, when I went to file to run for office, I don't think that I actually filed with any intentions other than just giving my predecessor a hard time and, holding him accountable. The more I got into it and the more that I listened to people and the more that I learned about the issues, I was like, no, I don't know when that point was where I went from running to make a fuss to running to win. One day, just something clicked in me and I said, you know what, this is really serious. In the 7.5-ish years that I've been on the school board, the highlight of every year is graduation. And so this year was really disappointing because we weren't able to have our in-person graduations. But being able to celebrate our seniors for all of the work that they've done, every year you hear so many great stories of hope and inspiration and determination. And it is just a time where I go and fill my cup every year and remind myself of why it is that we do what we do. What has been the hardest thing since I've been on the school board, there have definitely been a lot of really difficult times. What we're going through right now with COVID is completely unprecedented. Working to try to transform the classrooms and the educational environment to protect students and the people who work on the campuses, the teachers, the custodians, the lunch ladies, you have to weigh, the possibility of people actually dying versus, the other challenges that we have from not being in the classroom with, students falling back on their education because they don't have access to all of the same materials and the same technology, and even childcare is a challenge.
What advice would you give for people running for office? What differences have you seen as a woman running for office?
My advice for anyone wanting to run for office is just do it. You really don't even have to be, that educated on a subject. Like, you don't have to be an education expert to run for school board. You don't need to be, a city planner to run for city council. And I think that's a lot of the excuses that we as women tend to make to not run, is that, oh, well, I'm not as qualified, or I might not have the time. The job of governance is governing, and governing is very different from management. What you do have to have is the ability to listen to people and the ability to focus on outcomes and to know where it is that you want to make change in your community, and the ability to work with others. As a woman running, and especially a young woman running, I definitely found a lot of differences in the way that I was treated in the media, the way that the newspapers referred to me, the way that I was kind of would be introduced in forums. When I first ran, I was a small business owner, where a man would be referred to as, small business owner or entrepreneur or, business leader. Because there very much was a leader in my industry. I was referred to as, it was always wedding planner Ashley Paz. Never entrepreneur or nothing that ever sounded flattering.
When you enter a room, do you expect to be listened to?
Absolutely, I expected to be listened to. I had done the work, I was elected. And so when I joined the school board and when I go into a room, whether it's with other school board members or with business professionals, business leaders, I absolutely expect that my voice is heard the same as anyone else at the table. That has not always been the case.
Well, how do you think the women who struggled to get the 19th Amendment passed would evaluate the role of women in politics today?
One of the jobs that I worked in the past was an executive director for a nonprofit that was almost 100 years old. That nonprofit had actually spurred from the women's suffrage movement. When I think back to the women who founded that organization and the values that they had, and they were very brilliant women, and they were, some of them were very brilliant business women. I think that some of them would be a little disappointed to see how slow we've made progress, especially with, women in leadership positions and, in, not just in elected positions, but in business and serving in CEO, C-suite roles, even in Fortune 500 companies, but definitely among our elected representation.
So what do you know now that you wish you'd known earlier?
So I wish I had known back then that things aren't always going to be as easy as you expect them to be. Once you get elected, you think, oh man, all that's done, the hard part's over, but then you have to govern. And governing and campaigning are two very different things. Governing requires, working with all of the people that you just said, hey, our school board's not doing all of these things. Then you have to go and work with those school board members. You think that you're going to come in and you're going to get all of these things done. And then when you actually get in the role, you realize, oh, that's, the things that I thought were issues are really not that big of issues at all. We have much bigger things that we need to address.
Okay, so look into your crystal ball now and tell us
Okay.
where you think Tarrant County cities, school boards with regard to women in elected positions will be, and tell us short-term and long-term.
We have, 5 women. Yeah, we have 5 women who currently serve on our 9-member school board. Having so many women serving on our school board is, especially mothers who are invested in our local school district, is really an incredible thing. And my hope is that we have more of that, because the perspective that we get from that dynamic is it's just very robust, and everyone brings a different perspective and different opinions to the table. We engage in a lot of healthy dialogue and healthy conflict, and I think that there's something special about being a woman that allows that to happen. Looking more at our city and county level, the women who are leading in this in our area are doing a really great job. I would love to see more national level leadership. We have Kay Granger, who's a fellow awardee, who has been serving in the Congress. But I'm excited to see that there are a lot more women who are running for Congress, not just here in Texas, but nationally. Whether they're elected in Alabama or Georgia or Texas, it still puts another woman in Congress. And whether they're on the left or the right, I think that we're bringing a little bit of maybe more, I don't want to say common sense, but.
Oh, go for it. That's all right. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to say? Some aspect of being a female elected official that you would like to talk about?
One area that I would like to see more leadership is from women is actually having more women of color who are put into leadership positions. Our school district is predominantly children of color, but we have a board that does not reflect the demographics of our district. You know, one of the commitments that I have made is supporting women of color and specifically Black and brown women in leadership positions. But anything that we as a community can do to empower women of color in appointed positions, in local leadership positions, in your PTAs, in your neighborhood associations, that is providing elevation and empowerment so that they can run for office and that they can get the experience. I feel like it's my responsibility as a white woman to, you know, shut up and get out of the way sometimes.
You earlier had so eloquently said how the diversity on your school board made such a difference, that different viewpoints only makes a group stronger. So thank you for reiterating that. Thank you so much for being with us today, and congratulations on your award. We really do appreciate all that you do for the children in Fort Worth ISD and for elected officials everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. And the League thanks the many donors who support its mission of empowering voters and defending democracy.